And it's live. All right. I started a minute late, but that's not too late. NASA, cool. I see people talking NASA. Let's see. Oh, that is sad. I did not see the 8-bit guy. I know he's in Texas, but I didn't realize he had frozen pipes. That is certainly too bad. I do like that. Hopefully he didn't lose too much classic equipment there. That's a lot of history. I'll have to look that up. Did he tweet that? I'm just following up for... I seen someone put in the comments, if you're not familiar with 8-bit guy, he does a lot of classic computing, and apparently his house is damaged from there, so that's quite sad. That's a lot of, if it damaged especially any of his classic Commodores and all the different stuff he's had spent a lot of time restoring, so... Oh, he actually covered it on his YouTube channel. All right, well, I've been busy and I've not been watching YouTube, so now I will go watch that, and yeah. So, nonetheless... Welcome to number 213. I don't know why I was saying 100. 213. Make sure my phone's off. And I forgot the last couple times that I had not mentioned hot sauce, so I thought I'd mention it this time. And this is actually not hot sauce, but it's still spicy. This is habanero salt. We love this stuff, but it is like really... Like, you get a little of this in the air, and next thing you know, it's just everything bad happens. But it is really good when you just want to add a little salt and some habanero to things. So definitely something I recommend. This is actually made by a company called Electric Pepper Company. We have a few different ones. We have like a Reaper pepper salt, but the habanero salt's one of the best ones. This great flavor and everything else. Now, pfSense 2.5 is out. I did a video on it, which means, yes, I will be doing videos on the upcoming pfSense things like WireGuard. It's the number of people that have went around commenting on all my completely unrelated to pfSense videos to ask me about when the WireGuard video is coming. It just tells me people, I guess some people only use one form of communication, and that's YouTube. So randomly across many videos, a person has decided to ask that question, as if I'll even reply. I generally don't reply to people who ask a question unrelated in any way to the video. It just seems like, I don't know, not the place for that question, so I just choose not to answer it. There are other ways to engage with me, like Twitter or I don't know, any other way besides on the other video that's not related to it. So, let's see. Upgraded the office and stream earlier. Cool. I've seen a lot of people have done the upgrade, and overall, there really hasn't been that I've noticed any issues, with some exceptions. One of them was weird. I seen over on Reddit where someone had commented that the aliases, if you change them, they break. What they mean by that is they change an alias after it's already established. Actually, I never changed an already established alias. I didn't know that worked in the previous version of pfSense. So I'm a little confused by that, because generally if we set an alias, we'll adjust the values inside the alias, but you don't change the alias name itself after it's created. But I guess in 2.4 that worked, and someone said in 2.5, if I'm reading their report correctly, that it does not work. So there's that. I don't really, I'm going to upgrade everything to it. Someone else said there's a problem with certificate pinning in HA proxy, and they pointed out a bug issue for that. But, you know, if you don't try to push things to the new version, then you won't know whether or not there's any problems with the new version. So I definitely plan to push it. We have some complex setups. This is how the problems get solved. And but I understand for people that want to hold back, that you don't want to spend any time solving the problems. I completely get it. You probably don't use pfSense as much as we do. Therefore, it is probably a good idea until you wait till the more adventurous people that, well, are willing to put the time in to solve the problems, solve any of the problems in the edge cases, etc. So hopefully that makes sense there. What else do we have? Someone unsubscribed, he said hot sauce. 2.5 works great with HA Proxy and Acme. Yeah, I imagine it does work on that. And that's most of our setups. If we're using HA Proxy, pretty much we're using the Acme system for certs. So I feel pretty good about that working fine. And that's obviously a really popular solution. Now where the nuance will come in, and I don't think there's probably much code change to it, but it's the different automated DNS renewal systems for different providers. And that's been a challenge, because if a DNS provider changes something, and for example, I use DigitalOcean, if they make a change in the back end, but don't let everybody know what that change is, or that change is too dramatic, until someone lets the folks at Netgate know that pfSense needs to be updated in the way it handles it, they don't know. This actually happened, and oddly, one of my friends actually helped work and submit the code changes needed to get it fixed. He works for Let's Encrypt and helped them sort out a problem with the way something was implemented in some of the DNS for a couple of the different places. Yes, TLS 1.3 is now native. That's pretty cool too. Yeah, all the snow's melting right now. It's about the same, I think it's the same temperature here as it is in Texas, or at least pretty close. So I think their snow's starting to melt too. There's still snow if you, actually, we can pull up the cameras. There's still snow at the back of the building, but we do a good job of cleaning the parking lot, so there's not a lot of snow at the front of the building. You can switch screens here after I log in. So go here to the live view. So this is, all the snow is pushed to the outer edge of the parking lot, so you can see where it's all stacked up over there. But a lot of it's melting. And we have a lot of salt. But if you go on the back of the building right here, where my Tesla's usually parked, you can see kind of a lack of salt was put back here, because, yeah, saves money. And then that's how much snow is still on things. We haven't used our grill because, well, it's buried in snow right now and it's winter. We use the grill sometimes in the winter. But yes, the snow is a little bit better than it was previously. Someone from Texas, how deep south do you get snow? Yeah, I don't really, you can look at the news reports though. Texas is, yeah, it's some unfortunate situation going on down there. Yeah, snow in Dallas, that's definitely, it seemed to be unexpected, which is why people are having a lot of problems there. They're not exactly easy to cope with all of that, so. But nonetheless, back to the pfSense topic. Let's log into one of the pfSenses, because we can always play with that a little bit. Go over to, I think the one next to me is 203. Yep, it is. So let me log into that and we'll switch screens. Now, the pfSense 2.5, this is the pfSense Plus. Now I also have the other one here, and I did this in my other video to show the difference. This is one of the things that people kept, asking me about, and I just kind of laughed at some of the comments that are already coming across, because one of the things people keep bringing up were, well, oh no, Netgate's switching and they have two different versions. I'm like, okay, and they said they're going to switch to OpenSense, and I'm like, well, OpenSense has two different versions. And the person replied something like, well, it just feels different when pfSense does it, I guess. It feels strange to them. I was like, okay, OpenSense offers two different versions. They have a paid version with some extra features, and they have their free version, just like pfSense is doing. I don't know. I mean, use what makes you happy, honestly. I'm not here to police it. I use the things I want. I only will do the videos on the things that I want to do videos on, and right now that is not OpenSense. So that's also the part that always confuses me. People want to switch to something else. They can't find the documentation, so they bug me to do videos on it, and I'm like, I don't use it. So just because you want to use it doesn't mean I want to do videos on it. That's kind of a, I don't know, a little bit of a confusing point there. But the WireGuard, that is where everyone's going to want me to go for the videos. And there's a little bit of confusion with the way WireGuard handles things, but I will sort that out. I looked at the documentation. It looks pretty good from Netgate, but I mean, it's not the same as an in-depth tutorial. So I'll be working on exactly how you lay all this out. I'll probably do a couple, diagrams to kind of lay out how the network's connected, so you can kind of get the idea of, this endpoint, this is how the peering network works. This is how you can have the systems talking to each other, which, by the way, you can make it bidirectional. So this one has an endpoint of 203. I'm going to go to WireGuard on this one, VPN, WireGuard, hit edit. And this one's 217. And if you look, this is 203, and this is 217. So you can have them working so they both open the port and they both talk to each other. Now you can have it either or, where only one does it, but without a keep alive or something to initiate it, it doesn't get initiated. And what that means is, for example, let's say I have this one right here, this netgate that is behind a firewall, and I wanted to connect it to my home. I only need to open up the port on my home. There does not need to be a port opened up here. It can be behind a firewall, and then it can reach out and connect. And then everything, once connected, can talk back and forth. But what if we restart this? Well, the connection dies. If there's nothing to keep the connection going, or there's nothing initiating the connection, or you don't have a keep alive, nothing from my home would be able to get back to here until this initiates the connection. This is kind of the advantage if you set these up bidirectional, where they're both talking to each other. But these are some of those nuances. I just been making all my notes, getting ready for the WireGuard tutorial, that, yeah, they kind of have to be broke down exactly how that works. And the other one that's going to be kind of a curiosity, I think there's a couple forum posts over Netgate where people talk about connecting it as a privacy VPN. I'm going to have to look and figure out how the policy routing works on that, because that would be a separate video, because you have a site-to-site video, you have an endpoint video, and then you'll have the privacy / policy routing videos. So there's actually going to be at least 3 different videos on WireGuard to kind of cover the different functionality of it. Now, WireGuard is still easy, as people like to say, but there's still complexities because you have to build all the routing for it, and that's where the complexities are probably going to come in the most. I'll catch up with the questions. Using pfSense Plus with CARP sync with pfSense CE virtual, hope they don't diverge much. I don't think that's going to be a problem for functions like that, but because they're probably going to use the same base XML file for both of them, so I don't really see that as a massive divergence. Like, it's the same way in TrueNAS. I think is a great example of this, how you have TrueNAS and then you have the TrueNAS Core and the TrueNAS, I forget the other name of it, but the more upgraded enterprise support version. You do that in place so you can actually upgrade to the enterprise version or downgrade back in place. And I believe they're probably going to do something similar with pfSense. My guess would be that way they can allow people to update their system to have the extra features, or, you know, not have them. It's going to be kind of interesting. They don't really have it laid out. That's why I haven't spent a ton of time wildly speculating about what might happen. So it's one of those things. Yeah, not anything else from the interface has changed except for adding WireGuard. Like, it looks very much the same. There's all kinds of little things that they've added, and I didn't cover it, but I mean, I started playing with all the little things I've been finding, but you know, by going through the Errata and going, hey, this is new or that's new, but it's all really small nuance. It's not like major sweeping change, but that's actually fine from a firewall standpoint, because, you know, giving a firewall a huge facelift and moving everything around would be, well, confusing. Adding a VPN that we've been wanting to have this, you know, new VPN service, that's not confusing. That's just upsell and great, you know, for the new upgrade. And upsell's not the right word, just upgrade. You have an analysis paralysis. Yes, that happens a lot. When you're trying to pick products, people start looking at all the options, and it can be daunting, and you can get stuck trying to figure out exactly which one you want to use. I get it. I have that same problem all the time. Data caps via interface. I've never tried. There is a data metering that you can do with like Radius and Captive Portal, where a user logs in, it checks it, and you set quotas on Captive Portal so any one user can't use too much data. It's been a while since I've done that. I am going to do some new Captive Portal videos. I really hate Captive Portal, but I know enough people, and we ourselves have had clients where we've had to deploy it, so I probably will, with the new pfSense 2.5, do Captive Portal videos because, well, they've done a lot of updating to it. They did fix a problem that one of our clients had, and I covered that in a video, which Captive Portal, once a user was authenticated, they would have to re-authenticate if you rebooted the firewall. Actually, though, there's a cool little thing that was done. The folks over at Netgate, prior to 2.5, helped one of my clients, so it helped us, and we all worked together to get the client fixed. You were able to pull the code update over to pfSense, the 2.4 version, so you could actually make this work, where it survives reboots. So all the captive portal people, and I think they have like 3,000 or 4,000 people on there, when they would authenticate, if you had to reboot the firewall for any reason, it would make all those people re-authenticate again, which is also, if everyone tries to do it at once, kind of a load problem as well. But the solution was that you can patch certain pieces of code. I think I've talked about this before. There's a patch system to pull code in and like patch pfSense to have a feature that maybe is in a different repository. But that was like the hacky workaround. Now it's actually part of pfSense 2.5 and Captive Portal, which is great. Yeah, I haven't done a video yet on the G3 incident. I'm going to be doing a video on the Unifi Protect overall. So it's part of a, what I will be doing. Actually, let's pull up the G3 incident. Where's it at? So if we look over here, and we have the effing doorbell, which people always get a kick out of. But then we have, where is that G3? West Tesla Nanny Cam. Yeah, there it is, right here. So you guys can see from behind what's going on over here. Make it bigger. This is what the studio looks like from the other side. I think I've showed this video before, so you can see me hunching. I should be sitting up straight with good posture, but I'm a computer nerd and I lean in all the time like this. It's kind of funny seeing that. But yeah, the G3 camera on there. I'm going to do an updated review because I like this system, but it does have some limitations that I want to talk about. And it's still a good system for certain use cases, but other use cases are a little bit less so. For example, when you're doing this, it's not as fast when you're scrubbing the data, scrubbing through data like this to go and then from here go to download it. I don't know. I wasn't impressed with the speed when I was pulling some of the snow videos. But it works overall pretty well. I think it's relatively easy to use. Actually, you can probably, hey look, there's the plow truck. Watch the plow truck go through and clean up our parking lot. And that's what it looked like when we had all the snow. And there's what the snowstorm was here. We only got a few inches. All right. I don't sit here all the time. I sit here when I'm doing videos in the studio, so I could get a better chair, but this chair's in here. What else do we have in here? Fun fact, Mars rover that just landed has a ping latency of 12 minutes. That is a high ping time, but still manageable. Yeah, you're not going to play CSGO on Mars. Doesn't look like it. Still waiting for a UDM Pro. No, don't use the UDM Pro. That's my answer. Yeah, been looking for a good chair. Yeah, I think good chairs are important. Now I want to crack my back every time you say it because now I'm kind of I'm being conscious of the fact that I'm doing that. But nonetheless, that's, yeah. Definitely could probably use it a little bit better. I have a nicer chair in my office where I'm usually sitting, and I have a nice chair at home. So I just don't have a nice chair in this spot right here. That means I have to get the videos done faster, right? Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I mean, I have so many people message me about limitations when it comes to the UDM that I'm just like, I almost want to like just put more videos out about why you shouldn't use it, because that is still one of the #1 things that people contact must fill out, go into my forums. They're trying to figure out why it doesn't do something that they want it to do. And I'm like, because it doesn't do it. And they get mad at Netgate, or not Netgate, I'm sorry, they get mad at Unifi. Like, they should make a product that does this. I'm like, I agree, but they don't. So I don't know what to say. They just keep pushing it on people and suggesting people buy it, but they don't really want to ramp up the features on it. So I don't know what to say about that. You did not miss the video on the 45 drive storage build. The 45 drive storage build is coming soon. I actually just emailed 45 drives today. Let me actually see if they responded, because I didn't hear back from them. And nope, still nothing back from the folks at 45 drive. So my question for them, I'm waiting on them to get me a copy of Ubuntu with their extras on it. They're working on a newest version. So I'd mentioned to them, because when they got it to me, when they thought we were getting it, and when we actually got it, they said, you know what, we've actually come a lot further with our Ubuntu. We want to go ahead and have you review it on there. So that's the review. But I will be doing several different things with the 45 drives unit. So I just messaged them today trying to figure out, hey, when's that coming? Now, things I do have to finish, because I brought up Synology here, and that is another project we're actively working on as we speak here. And let's log into Synology and take a look at that. Steve, one of my staff, is loading something. I don't know. It's grinding away right now. That's actually why I'm also using the lapel mic. All those servers on make a lot of noise, and the normal microphone that's up here, as close as I have it, it still picks up a lot of ambient server noise. The lapel mic doesn't pick it up. That's why I'm using that today. I should probably use it more often, because I don't know, I kind of like it. I don't think it has quite the same dynamic range as the mic up here, but let me know. No one's complained. I've actually did the last couple videos with it on, and no one said anything. The new Linux kernel is released. Yes, I am using a lav mic. So, as someone just noticed, can you make a high-performance computer cluster of pfSense? I don't understand that question. The performance difference between there. You know, let me answer that before you start talking about Synology. If we go to the Netgate blog, and let's pull it up. They have done in-depth testing, breaking down the different streams and everything on the same exact hardware for how much faster WireGuard is inside of pfSense. So this is with the kernel implementation. All the details are in here. So yes, you're going to get a much faster overall with WireGuard than you will with OpenVPN. So if you have a use case where you're not in need of the user management features that come with OpenVPN, and you just need connectivity, then yes, WireGuard is probably a great application for that, and it is faster. Now, of note, some of these numbers do have to be updated again, because the newest version inside of pfSense of OpenVPN is using the newer Cha-Cha-Poly encryption algorithms. So since it's using that cipher, then you can also probably get some enhanced speed on it. I don't know how much fast the cipher is in 2.5. So there's a new question of, all right, WireGuard still has the same cipher, but the update means, is the OpenVPN faster? So now more tests have to be done again. I don't know what speed differences there are between the previous version of OpenVPN and the new version and the new ciphers that are supported in there. So that's going to be an interesting question for sure. Sounds good here. Cool. Let's see. Do you use TrueNAS virtualized? No, I run around telling people not to virtualize TrueNAS because they end up breaking things all the time. It's not that you can't do it. It's just really much more complicated, and you add a lot more problems. And then there's going to be someone with a caps lock ready going, I made it work perfectly fine once I sorted through all the errors. It's not that you can't do it. If you're not an advanced user, I highly don't recommend it. And it's not something you really ever run in production. It's something that people run in their lab, which is fine. If you want to run in your lab, I got no problem with that. Do you have a video on free radius authentication with Unifi? I do not. I have not done that video. Greetings from Jamaica. Awesome. Can I cover TNSR? I don't know. I don't have a use case for that. That's my usual answer, so I don't know. Actually here, OpenVPN. Where's this at? I'll find it for you because it's in the notes, but it looks like this right here. It's for those that don't know, Cha-Cha Poly is a cipher. So there we go. The Cha-Cha Poly 1305 for data channel, several new HMACs. This is an older release, but now it's actually in release in pfSense. This is the OpenVPN 2.5 that has that extra cipher. So for those of you that want to dive into encryption ciphers of Cha-Cha Poly 1305, there is an Cha-Cha Poly and Poly 1305 IETF protocol listing for it and breakdown. So if you're into cryptography and you want to read through how it works, it's in here. It is also, I believe, exactly the same cipher used inside of WireGuard. I haven't used FreeIPA. Is there improvements for the SG1100 hardware encryption? Yes. I know there's just, in general, some ARM improvement for the encryption. So I don't know how much of a difference or how much of an improvement. I know they listed that there is. So I don't know how much of a percentage gain you get overall with it. XG7100 or Supermicro? I don't know. I'd have to look up that particular Supermicro. I like the XG7100. It's not bad. It's obviously a little different. And let me explain this if you aren't familiar. I did a review. Let me find this actual board that you listed here. So the first thing, and let me find, is there a good view of this? No. Here, let's all look together, folks. Right here, this is the X11SVD4CTP. I think that's the one you typed in, right? Anyways, the question of comparing that over to the Supermicro board versus the XG7100. They're different designs because this design here has individual ports versus the one on Netgate has, they built their own back end. So when you use the Netgate one, the XG7100, it is specifically built in a little bit different of a way. Netgate actually doesn't just buy off-the-shelf hardware and stick it in a box. So this box was custom, both of these boxes are Netgate boxes, so they're more customized and very specific. It doesn't mean you can't use the other ones. pfSense CE works perfectly fine on the other ones. I haven't tested that particular board, but most boards that have Intel chipsets don't have a problem with running Intel. If you're running Intel chipsets, you generally don't have a problem running pfSense CE on them. But when you buy something from Netgate, you know it's going to be compatible because it's the hardware that they tested it on. So we generally, because of the warranty and the support that we want for commercial clients, we will get the genuine Netgate boxes. Doesn't mean it won't work on the other ones, but you know, it comes down to support and things like that. If you already have a switch, you don't have to buy a Unifi switch if you want to switch to Unifi. You can use each one. It's just nice when everything's in one dashboard, but obviously I've said earlier, we're not a big fan of using any of the Unifi routing equipment, so that dashboard part's always blank. I don't care much for the Unifi routing equipment at all. Let's see. Let's see, what else do we have here? I'm looking at getting an SG2100 or 3100. I would probably recommend, it depends if you need the lab if you need the extra features in your lab or if you're doing it for production. The 2100 is what I use at home, but the 2100 doesn't have enough extra ports on it. You get the cool switch on there, but you don't get that extra opt switch or opt port. The 3100, love that one because you get the switch, you get the extra opt port. So you have a WAN and opt. Now opt you could do what you want with, but frequently the use case we have is client has two internet providers. They have a failover and a primary. We use the opt to basically be WAN 2. So pretty simple there. That's why we get the 3100. The 2100 for my home is great. I only have one internet provider at home. I don't have a failover, so it's not like I even need the extra port on there. Your viewers sold me on Netgate. I dropped the UDM Pro. Good. we hope to make everyone happy that way, because I feel bad for people that don't know what to do with their UDM pros when they find out all the things they can't do with it, and then I don't know, and they keep trying to figure out what to do with it. All the people have been trying to hack it to load different software on there. I'm like, good luck. There's actually a lot of people who've modified things on it, but it requires a lot of manual manipulation of the files on it, and it's like, then it really isn't a UDM anymore, and you're just trying to hack a way to get it to do what you want it to do instead of it doing it out of the box. We still run Zen, but we specifically run XCP-ng for Zen server, but also we have R640, I think, is what we're running it on right now. So we don't have any of the Dell. We got rid of the Dell R710s a while ago. But we still use a lot of XCP-ng. That's still our primary hypervisor that we like. Any plans on video using Starlink? I don't really have a good use case for Starlink except to make videos, and Chris is doing it. So there's enough people, Chris included. Chris probably has the better videos on it, so I don't really have a use case where I say I just need to make videos on it. I have so much connectivity here, I don't need a high latency connectivity. I mean, it's not super high latency, but it's still latency. I may as well just get an actual either fiber provider or just another cable connection, because we have 2 connections here available to us, both Wide Open West and Comcast. 3?
AT&T?
Yeah, but they're not cable. They're DSL.
Yeah, they do fiber.
Oh, they do fiber, they don't do cable. So
We have the luxury of having multiple providers.
we have multiple providers here. Steve walked by and that's what he said. So yeah, Chris, like Chris said, if it's just providing an IP address, it'll work as just any other failover. So there's nothing really special about it. It's just a failover at that point. There is no user install for WireGuard. That's basically not how WireGuard works, which is why I made a video that has plenty of hate about WireGuard and how it works. I made that video specifically so I could just anger people, and I guess that seems to be what it is, but let me pull the video up real quick. Actually, I'm going to drop a link. I think I can drop a YouTube link in here. But we'll pull it up over here too and just talk about this real quick. So I did this video on the challenges with WireGuard usage and adoption. It's because people keep asking questions like, oh, where's the installer? I'm like, there's not one. That's not how WireGuard works. It's a different type of tool. And that is why it's going to have a long time before it gets a mass adoption from the end users, because it's not really designed that way. That's where people constantly conflate it, like, oh, new VPN, so there's a whole install stack and everything else. There are tools out there like Tailscale that do create installers and services around WireGuard. WireGuard itself does not really have, they do have a Windows tool on there, and they do have ways you can set it up, but it's not like OpenVPN where it has an install tool and a setup. There's tooling that needs to be kind of put around it. Does MakerTick support WireGuard? I have no idea. Someone told me it did. I don't know. I don't use enough MakerTick to really know. That's not my thing. I thought elk stacks seemed way more complex than Graylog. Graylog seemed to be faster and lighter weight. I set up an elk stack and I said, this just seems complicated. I'd actually set it up before, and when they updated to a new version, this was going back a while, and it broke a few things. And I said, you know, I like things that just update. And I mean, it's elk stack's neat, but it doesn't feel, once you go through all the trouble setting it up, it doesn't feel like something I can just press update and everything just updates and flows without a lot of work. Versus Graylog, because it's kind of a complete package. Graylog has its own Graylog update that updates the Graylog server in place, and that seems to be something that I like a little better. That's why I went with Graylog. I'm really happy with it. It works well. But use whatever makes you happy. I mean, I know a few people are going to be asking about Prometheus. I know a few people in the Linux DevOps space that really like it, and there's a new plugin for pfSense that allows you to get the node metrics and tie it in with Prometheus, which means I'm probably going to get a bunch of people hammering, why don't you have a Prometheus video, Tom? But yeah, so nonetheless, let's see. Oh, he trashed a brand new laptop of coffee. That's not good, but yeah. That's an issue, but that happens. I see that. Head over to Reddit tech support Gore, and there's always that going on. Okay, so you're trying out both the Graylog and the other one. Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I set it up, I just felt it was a lot more complicated using the elk stack. And yeah, Graylog just kind of, was easy to use. Once I got the flow of how things work, how the extractor extracts the data, how it structures the data, and once you take the time to write the regex to organize all the data into proper searchable fields, it gets pretty easy. Nice thing is, it's kind of, once you've got it set up, it just flows. And as you do, I've already done a couple upgrades since I started with Graylog, and that's actually been really nice. The upgrades flow, and they have a lot of extensible things. They have a nice support plan if you would like to buy support from them, and their Graylog Enterprise version comes free for up to 5 gigs. I think it's 5 gigs a day worth of data. So now I'm not even using the Enterprise version. I'm just using the open source, but I can upgrade to the Enterprise in place, and I'm not even I don't move that much data a day. I move a little bit less than 5 gigs a day. So I think I got about 100 gigs it's about 100 gigs coming in a month roughly right now. Oh yeah, also, throw some likes this way. There's 370 viewers and only 51 likes. A few more likes would be great. Do I have IPMI on my servers? Absolutely. This is important. And if you're not familiar with IPMI, I highly recommend it. So I'll actually launch into our console on this, which someone will make fun of the way I say console. But IPMI, or the lights out management system, depending on which one's using, it comes built into these Dells. Let's go over here to the we can go here. I can see all the alerts. I can see the hardware. I can look into the front panel, the wattage, the usage. I can see everything in here. And I can I can do this remotely. I don't have to be in the building. And we buy these for our clients for the same reason. Because, there we go. Hey, look, I'm in to the system. I'm sitting right at the keyboard, and I can get things set up and configure things, etc. So yeah, this is great. Once you are used to having IPMI on all of your server equipment, you don't want to go back to not using it. It's been around for quite a while, but yeah, it's definitely handy. So if I need to reload anything, I can even connect. If you see up here, I got virtual media I can connect here. You can always pop a USB, change the boot order, leave something at the ready. So, if you got this in a remote data center, you're able to get to the main screen. You're able to restart things. You're able to move things around. So, yeah, highly recommend IPMI. And it's one of those things like when we're setting up for clients, it's definitely the way to do it. IPMI is, very similar to iDRAC. It's actually, matter of fact, I think I can pull up the one for Supermicro. Let me change here, so find it. What is it called? Is it FreeNAS, or do I have it as a TrueNAS? You launch it. Log in here. There we go. This is the one for the TrueNAS Mini that's actually sitting behind me. So here it is. I can see the server, event health. I can remote control. Well, actually, we can launch this. Works the same. This is the IPMI for This is the IPMI for the TrueNAS Mini with the Supermicro motherboard. Oh, cool. There's some errors because I was just resetting up the network, so read connection lost. Yeah, that's me testing stuff. But I can get to the interface on this. I can see the health of the system. I can reload things here. You have some of the same options. I have a virtual keyboard I can pull up if I have to send special key commands. I got it like that. And you know, if I have to restart and want to know what's on the screen or if the system crashes, you just pop open this. And of course, you have all the other health information here too. So if I needed to know sensor readings, temperature, everything else, I can get that. And you can also program this to send alerts and send alerts to things like if there's a thermal problem, if there's a failure of something, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, this is definitely great to have. Highly recommended on all the servers, like I said there. Yeah, a lot of the Supermicro server boards have it. The Supermicro boards have it, and I think, is it ASRack makes them? So ASRock has a server line of boards, I believe it's called ASRack, and they have that as well. So a lot of different companies offer it if you're building them yourself. If you're looking on the used market, the Dell, make sure you get the ones that have the iDRAC Enterprise on there. And the used Dell market is pretty good for buying, you know, if you're building a lab and you're looking for some servers, it just saves you the trouble. Being able to sit at your keyboard and not have to go over to wherever the servers are just makes life easy. I don't know if it's exactly the same as Intel vPro, but I know Intel, they all have a similar thing that they do. Oh yeah, if you have an older Supermicro one, you're going to get a stupid error about Java every time you try to launch that. Yeah, there's nothing, that's just annoying. The old ones used a stupid Java interface, and there's not a lot you can really do about it. Do bigger vendors like Synology try to help out with charities? I have no idea. If you're trying to get them to donate something to you for a charity, I don't know. That's way outside of my scale of knowledge. Yeah, Java IPMI is a pain. Okay, yeah, someone said the Intel one. I haven't used a genuine Intel motherboard for, well, quite a while. So, yeah, I haven't seen one of the Intel server boards. It's been a minute. Now, speaking of Synology, back over to here. One of the things we're playing with right now is the, well, this, for one. Let's go into Control Panel and show you what this is. Go to the Info Center. This is the new RackStation 1221 Plus with the AMD Ryzen processor in it. And we have the Virtual Machine Manager set up on here. Where's it at? There it is. Virtual machines, and I should be able to connect to it. Hey, look, there we go. This is actually Windows running inside of a virtual machine, running inside of a Synology. And yeah, just kind of neat that they've, you know, we wanted to kind of load this thing up, test it out. I'm getting ready to do my review on it, so we loaded, you know, Windows 10, and we'll probably load, I've loaded Linux VMs on it already. Steve went and loaded a Windows one on there as well. Actually, we loaded it, deleted it, and now we're starting over to load them again. But hey, it's pretty slick system. I've never really messed much with the Synology virtual machine stack, and so now I'm going to do a couple of videos coming up though on the Synology virtual machine stack. We have that set up on here too. Go to Virtual Machine Manager. Actually, go into Control Panel. This Synology, actually, where's the Info Center? Why does it not just do that? There we go. Info. This is the DS1621XS Plus. Now, this one here is set up as a virtual machine cluster with the other one. So if you go to cluster, there are the two different machines that we have listed. And like I said, I haven't really dove much into these for videos, but this is something I'll be working on, is showing how they integrate with each other. And this is just kind of a neat feature Synology has that, like I said, I haven't spent a ton of time doing, but I'm kind of impressed how well it works. So I'll also be doing a comparison between these two systems, because let me find out what these ones cost. What is the our RackStation one even, what is the price tag on this? That's one of the things that I'm going to look. Do they have a MSRP on this? It's this one right here. Now, by the way, the one we're testing is not the dual power supply one, it's a single, and I have a complaint right away when we looked at it. The single power supply one doesn't have removable power supply. They put removable power supplies in the dual, but a built-in power supply. I mean, it's removable, but it requires taking apart the whole system. I like it better when you get a system and you have a blank and one. So this is going to be at least one thing that if you're getting it, I would probably recommend getting the dual, because that makes a lot more sense, because then it's just that much more serviceable. But, you know, the other thing that right away is another complaint is, hey, look, we got 4 network ports, and none of those 4 network ports are 10 gig. So that was my other complaint out of the box that I was going, I don't really care for. But I also have these right here. So I'm doing some more videos and some 10 gig cards. These are some Intel 10 gig cards. We have a few of these laying around, and we bought some more, but we popped those into Synology, and now the Synology has a 10 gig SFP plus, so now it's connected at 10 gig. I just don't know why they didn't think to build it in a rack-mounted one here in 2021, going, hey, you should probably, you know, throw one of these in. If you got it for this modern age, everything should be 10 gig that you're selling when you're selling any of these rack-mounted servers. It's just not that expensive. I mean, hell, even buying those Intel cards that I have laying over here, were not that expensive. Those are cheap on eBay. Back over to the comments. Oh, let's see. Some backup solutions do run on Windows. Yes. Yeah, removable PS is a must. I mean, they have it as an option. But they sell the one with the removable power supply and one without. And the one they sent us for demo that I do have to send back is the one without. And yeah. Synology's own RAM is a little overpriced. Yeah. Intel is the kind of no-brainer when it comes to these. One of the reasons we picked up some of these Intel cards is I'm going to talk about, and I've run into this problem a couple times now, you know, people having compatibility problems with cards. And I'm like, you don't spend much more for a dual port SFP Intel card. I think this is the DA520. I don't remember the model number exactly. I can look it up probably. Was it on here? I don't know. Not that it's super relevant. They're the Intel, relatively inexpensive. You can buy these depending on what kind of deal you find. I bought them with both brackets. That way they're diverse. Pull Linus. It's got the short bracket and a tall bracket, and I think this was like 90 bucks, 80 bucks, including shipping, somewhere around there. It was sub $100 for a dual 10 gig card. I think that's a pretty good deal for them, gives you plenty of connectivity, also gives you opportunity if you wanted to create a lag and set up LACP. That's, you know, they're great, they're compatible, they like FreeNAS, they like, matter of fact, that's what's in that TrueNAS Mini back there, has that in there. Synology recognizes them, they're on the supported list for Synology, so. Yeah, you just heard pull the Linus. Can't go wrong with Intel X520s. Yep. So that's what we have in there, and so that's my other complaint about it. So far, though, like functionally, it's a nice system. It's the one thing I want to start digging into on these, and I'll have to put the kilowatt on it, is I want to know, you know, how light the power usage is on it, because one of the advantages, and this is a low-powered Ryzen, this is not one that scores particularly high, but one of the advantages you get out of the AMD Ryzen ones is, you know, the kind of low power of it. The other things I do have set up on here are, I'll go into the package center. Whoops, actually in here, so it's already set up. Hyper Backup. I have talked about Hyper Backup, and I feel a lot of things with Synology are just intuitive enough that people don't ask a lot of questions. But I have not done, but I probably should do a video. Close these, go to Hyper Backup because it's actually started on this one. The Hyper Backup service is actually really nice and does allow for well, quite a bit of diversity when you go back and forth on how it does the backups, how it does the revisionings, how it does the targets, how it can encrypt. So even your endpoint target does not have to have the decryption keys. So you can encrypt it. The endpoint can be, so to speak, unaware of the data on it. It's got a lot of nice features the way they handle all that. It seems to be pretty well put together. And I also realized that there's a little bit of trickiness to the restore, so I'll probably be doing some more Synology videos on this. It's kind of stuff I'm queuing up, but we do sell a lot of Synology solutions to clients. It's been a pretty solid performer for things, especially when you're talking like the active backup. That is just one of those things that, setting this up and backing up a bunch of servers for clients on it, yeah, it's just kind of easy, and without any recurring license fees, you can buy a few of these, build up a good backup strategy, and sell it as a service, and away you go. And then you can even set the replication to be off-site, pop a large Synology off-site in a data center, and then have one Synology replicate to the other Synology for an off-site backup plan. So, like I said, it's a pretty impressive platform overall. Migrating TrueNAS to new hardware. The drives themselves, I have a video on that exact topic. The drives don't care where they are. ZFS, it connects everything by the pool, not by the connector. So it's not like looking for SATA 0, SATA 1, SATA 2. It looks for the pool and the number of drives in that pool that make up ZFS. So you move to a new hardware, generally speaking, it does not care when you plug the drives into a new system. I have a video on that topic too. And that's what I did. I took all the drives from one system and stuck them in another system. You want to get a Synology for a nonprofit? Well, if you want to get one, get one. You'll have to, I don't know. They cost money, so I run a charity drive for the nonprofit. I don't know. Not sure the question on that. I think you asked quite the same question in my forums, and I don't really have an answer. Yeah, back up your TrueNAS config and restore it to the new system. Make sure before you take apart the old system that when you've done the backup, you've also backed up the keys. I have a video on that, on how to handle encryption keys, because sometimes people tear apart a system and didn't get the keys. They only backed up the configuration. It's very important that you get the keys. You have, okay, will the migration work if migrating between different systems? I don't know. I have not tried to build a ZFS array and then import that ZFS array into TrueNAS. I think it would work, because as long as they were using standard ZFS, then it should work, but I have not tested it. So that's uncharted territory. I've certainly moved plenty of TrueNAS machines from, well, ones that were broken or problems and into another just by swapping the drives around. That's not a big deal at all. I've had motherboards die. I've had the SATA DOM die recently on one of my systems. I've had issues, but they were all pretty easy to deal with because I had backups. I had backups of the config, so the data pool was easy enough just to bring back in. You don't have any drive encryption. Well, I suggest you encrypt all your drives, but if you didn't, you have one less thing to worry about. Do I recommend going to 2.5 CE or give it a few weeks? It really depends on how much you like potentially having issues. And I say potentially. I don't really know of any issues right now, so it depends on whether or not you want to feel adventurous. I recommend upgrading personally because that's what I do, but that's me. And I like all the adventure of trying new things and playing around with them. And I see a lot of people saying they didn't have any problems. I upgraded my one at home already, upgraded it this morning, and my VPN and everything works perfectly fine. But some people, and someone had commented too, they had a bunch of custom options in their VPN that apparently don't work or were deprecated with the new version of OpenVPN. So, there's sometimes if you customize things, you may have to make sure that any customizations that you added are supported in the new version. So that's really where the, might be a problem there. May or may not be an issue for you, but it's just something to think about. Yep, and some people just like to wait for me to point out upgrade issues. That's fine too. I did see, but this has happened to me before, just in general from updating PF Blocker. PF Blocker sometimes on my home system, when I update it, doesn't start unbound, and I don't know why. I probably should just redo the config and fix it because it doesn't, I don't have an error message. I just know if I tell PF Blocker to update, it does update like to the new version, but it doesn't always start unbound. And that's the only problem I've run into when I updated it. It was a really easy fix. You click start on unbound after it does. Now, every time, now here's what's weird. If you update it but leave it alone and it runs the cycle where it goes through and downloads the new version, I think it restarts unbound when it does that. So it doesn't have a problem restarting unbound, but on the process of upgrading, it doesn't restart unbound. That's the only issue I've really run into. Yes, I'm the. Let me be the canary in the coal mine when it comes to updating pfSense. Yeah, I think a few people have mentioned PF Blocker doing it. And I keep seeing, if I'm not mistaken, it's in their notes, like that's something they're trying to solve of what's the edge case that causes that. Anyone here, what's the new 50-seat limit on Untangle? They changed some of the limitations on Untangle, so I guess there's a limit on there. They have 2 different home versions now, like a Home Pro and just Home. I haven't really kept up with all of that. When we sell Untangle, we're always buying the business version, so I don't really sell a lot of home licenses, so I guess I'll have to take a look at that. Untangle videos keep falling by the wayside. I want to do more of them, but then the interest level when I do an Untangle video seems to be so much lower. And generally speaking, the people who want Untangle are people who want filtering. That's one of the reasons we sell it, because people go, I need this full dashboard, I need full filtering. So we sell them an Untangle to filter everything. Yeah. It works for that, but, you know. Nonetheless, back over to Synology. What else was I going to say about the Synology? Oh, the Docker on there. That's something else I might do a few videos on, is how Synology handles Docker. That's something they at least have done quite a bit of work on as well, to pull different containers. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, if you go to the Docker registry, we could probably just find the latest version of Debian. You got to spell Debian right. Details, or Ubuntu. There we go. And do a Docker pull, so we'll just download it real quick here. Where do we want to put it? Latest? Yeah, latest sounds good. Start pulling the image. And like I said, I may do a few videos on this particular, I pulled the Unifi one here, now I'm pulling this one here. So these are a couple things that I'll, once again, a few more videos that probably need to be done on Synology. I think it's a really nice event, or I said event because I'm reading at the top there. I think it's a really nice system. I still kind of have, you know, the things I don't like about it. And one of them is kind of the mystery of how a lot of this works. It's kind of like behind the scenes, it's all magic in the front without giving you a lot of details on the back. They kind of want you to stay away from the command line. And one of the other problems I've had with that is like the way they implemented rsync made it a little bit more challenging when I wanted to get this synced up with another system like TrueNAS. It's not as easy to sync. So I'm going to work on a video too of how to sync data between them, because it looks like the only way to really do that is to go to File Station, and I would have to actually, I think it's under Tools, mount a remote folder and build the remote connections so you have a mount here that can sync. Now, TrueNAS uses normal rsync, so you can actually set rsync modules up and actually pull from rsync modules between TrueNAS systems, but in here, you have to do it a little bit different. And I tried using their rsync, which is actually built in a hyper backup, and it didn't work. So sometimes that's where they don't seem to follow the standards as well, and that might be some of the issues I run into. But overall, it's not like it's all little details that are not necessarily making Synology a bad thing. It's just things you need to be aware of when you're doing it. Let's see here. Like, what else was on my list? I only had a few more things on my list. Yeah, the Untangle is not really a seat limit. As someone pointed out, you're limited to 50 IPs. Untangle does everything by device. And so if you want filtering and things like that, it's by device. But what you can do, Untangle applies things based on tags, for example. And there's ways, and maybe I should just sit down and do this particular video on Untangle to solve that issue. You can take Untangle and say, I only buy 25 seats for filtering because I have an office with up to 25 devices that I care about filtering. What about the guest network? Well, obviously the guest network maybe has some unknown number of people on there and I can't really cover them. You can create a policy rule to not apply those policies to the guest. So you build a series of policies to not apply filtering, for example, because your filtering license only covers X number. And for example, in the home user, you have 50 devices you can cover, but maybe you have a bunch of other stuff that you're not worried about the internet filtering feature. So you create a policy and you create another VLAN, for example. So everything on that VLAN, or just even a different subnet, doesn't have to be a VLAN. Everything on that subnet gets tagged with a different policy that doesn't apply to the other services. Therefore, it's kind of exempt from it. Another way to easily do that is to put the guest network behind another firewall. So it looks at one device. Kind of simple problem solved. So you have your guest network that you just want general guests to be able to use. You create a subnet, you put a firewall on it, and now as far as Untangle is concerned, it's one device. And there's different ways to go around the system like that that make it pretty easy. Synology does have replication. And that's what I'm going to have to play with, how their replication works. It's not the same because they don't use ZFS, so it doesn't work like ZFS replication works. ZFS replication is pretty awesome. I just did a couple of videos with TrueNAS and how their replication and their snapshots work. Synology handles it a little bit different, and it is not natively compatible with the way TrueNAS does it. So. Hey, thank you very much, James Billsborough. Just thank you for putting up with my badly worded comments and questions. Also for a beer. Yes, we'll throw that towards some beer money for later after the show here. Have I used Netgate TNSR? Now, the one thing with Netgate TNSR, they have benchmarks and performance on it, and it's all command line driven. It's a nice system that they built that's very purpose-built for people who need things, especially in some of the really high-performance data center level environments. I get it. I get why they made it, and it's very niche use case. And I know some people have set it up. They have a lab version now, so if you want to set it up in your lab. I just haven't really had the time to dig into it or the use case for it. We don't have any clients that need it right now as a solution. Therefore, we haven't really messed with it much. But like I said, I think it's pretty neat. I like what they're doing with it. It's vector packet routing is like the engine behind it that makes it that much more, faster, better, stronger when it comes to performance. But yeah, it's another platform to learn, and I have to get a few other videos that I think I already mentioned about Synology, about TrueNAS, and people really want me to do a WireGuard video before I do a TNSR video. So it'll get pushed down the line a little bit before I do it. So. Synology, so they did a video, and I've shared Patrick from Serve the Home. Did a great video on the Synology and their proprietary drives. I don't really see this as a big deal. If you're getting into the enterprise storage market, you want to, really guarantee performance and guarantee compatibility to give a contract type of service level agreement saying this device will perform this well under these workloads. That's very important in a commercial environments. And if you look at something like the IX Systems, $100,000 enterprise storage servers that we've quoted and sold to large studios, for example, they want guarantees. That guarantee doesn't mean pick a bunch of random drives and put them in there and offer a guarantee. When you call an order from a enterprise vendor, you get the drives they choose. Synology seemed to approach it a little weird, which of course has created confusion, and it sounds like they're doing some type of vendor lock-in. Well, it is weird that they don't, when they announced this, they didn't have a whole bunch of vendors lined up. And Synology has these recommended drive thing they do to where they recommend you use these drives for the best performance. And it's not really a lock-in. I can put whatever drives I want in these, in these Synology devices that I have, and I just have to heed that warning. But when you go for the larger high-end, and I think these devices are targeted without the hard drives, they're in these $5,000, $6,000 range. They're not targeting the home users for this device. They're targeting people who, want something with a performance and an agreement of what that performance will be. So I don't really see it as that big of a deal. People really, still build your own Synology. You can still buy all the ones that are more targeted for small offices and home users, and there's no proprietary drive things. And a matter of fact, one of the things I like is having an option that when I buy something myself and I'm putting my name on the line, that this $15,000 sale, which by the way is usually a component. I'm not just selling you a storage server, I'm usually selling you other components around it, that this $15,000 investment isn't going to leave me with egg on my face. So this is one of the reasons I don't mind that they say this is the most compatible. Great. I just want to know that because I have a big project coming up and I want to know, will this device perform at this level and what are the guarantees? So I don't really think it's that big of a deal. It's only kind of a niche of products that is happening on. It's not really it's not something I foresee them doing. Why would they destroy they built this really cool system that we're talking about all the features. I don't think they're then going to try and lock you into a certain hard drive. Matter of fact, that's been their bragging point over, and why people like Synology sometimes over systems built on ZFS, is the Synology RAID system that allows you to expand drives on existing pools. That makes life easy for people, especially home users who go, hey, I can only afford 3 drives now and maybe 2 drives later. Well, Synology lets you put drives together of, different times and expand the pool. Badly communicated. That was probably, like James said here, yeah, it just seems like they probably didn't do it the best way in their communication. They should have explained it the way Patrick from Serve the Home explained it, or the way Tom Lawrence just explained it. That would have been great. I think maybe they rely on people like me or Patrick and others to, kind of explain things in a more concise way. That's fine. That's how it is. But nonetheless, if you feel like reinstalling TrueNAS, is there a difference? I always install legacy versus UEFI. That's my preference, but TrueNAS doesn't really care that I know of in terms of loading it. I always load legacy. I don't usually use the UEFI. I think I may have used it at one time in one of my demos, but I don't really pay attention. And the ZFS doesn't care because the ZFS aren't boot drives. Well, I mean, they are if you're using ZFS on the boot drive, but I don't think it really cares that much. So you have some VMs running on Ubuntu server VMs on Synologies. Yeah. I don't really have much in production, but I do have a friend who swears by the Synologies as iSCSI targets for his ESXi clients. So they have this running in their data centers, the larger ones, and well, actually they're older ones now, but they're the large rack-mounted Synologies, and I didn't know Synology was even making rack-mounted stuff that long ago, because this stuff's pretty old, but they've held up really well, and yeah, they seem to be, he's used a lot of them, says they have been a really solid, reliable device for storage for his ESXi clusters. We've been testing XCP-NG on it. XCP-NG seems to have no problems with the Synology either. So let me go over here. We'll pull up, I think I have it set up in my lab. What disk is this on? Yeah, this is on a Synology here. So this is running on the disk station, and I actually just did this the other day. This is a Windows 10 lab. The numbers after is because this was just restored. Well, that's the backup date on it, but this is restored from backup. Let's get rid of that. I was deleting everything on the lab and rebuilding it, because it's fun. That's why it says restored from backup. So let's see how it boots. I don't think it's on the right network. Maybe it is. I don't know. We'll figure that out when it boots. There, Windows freshly restored, booting off of that and running off of a Synology disk. Matter of fact, it's running off this one, so we'll pull up the resource meter. Look at the disk activity while it boots. Welcome, LTS. Booted rather fast, and this is, let me actually look. What's it running on? This is this share, and I think I have to go over here. I think the shares are all running on SSDs, so they're still going to be relatively fast. View all. So which volume is it? Volume 2 is SSDs, and I don't know, I guess we can make some disk activity happen. We'll do this. There, that'll spin some activity over here, and we'll see what drives are spinning on. So I forgot which ones I set up. I know I could go look. LAN 1, disk utilization, volume. It's red, so maybe that is on volume 1, not on volume 2. Hey, whatever. I'm going to do a couple videos on that topic too. You can use XCP-ng as both iSCSI, so if you set up the iSCSI, which there's nothing on here set up right now, you can use iSCSI and attach it to XCP-ng, ESXi, or whatever you want for your target, and you can use NFS, which actually this is connected through NFS right now. So yeah, it's workable. It's doing its thing in the background now. Oh yeah, this is 10 gig definitely helps quite a bit. You definitely want your storage server connected at 10 gig or more, especially if you're using SSDs. You're going to run into problems of limitations. If you squeeze everything onto 1 gig, then yeah. What's my opinion on Unraid? People like it. I don't use it, so I have no opinion on it. It seems to make some people happy. I just don't have a use case for it. I'm much more of a fan of TrueNAS. By the way, Linus has become a bigger fan of TrueNAS. He just did that video on replacing the Jellyfin servers. And the only reason I watched it is because I knew TrueNAS was involved. And someone had tweeted, actually someone had messaged me on Twitter and said, hey, did you see the Linus video? And I'm like, yeah, a couple of people mentioned like, hey, Linus talked about TrueNAS. And I'm like, yep. MTU 9000 for the win when it comes to iSCSI. Yes. Linus loves Unraid, but he also uses TrueNAS, and that comes down to use case. And I was trying to think of like, do I make a video on, you know, because here's one of the differences. Linus gets you excited or tells you what products maybe are good to use. He does a lot of reviews on it. What Linus did not do in that video was tell you how to really use TrueNAS. He gave the usual big, you know, sweeping overview of how to do it, and which of course I'm excited for. That brings a lot of interest there, and that's the audience he's essentially catering to, is an audience that goes, I want to know about this tech. I want to not use this Jellyfin server, and I think it's called Jellyfin, right? But the server is going to do TrueNAS, and he knows because he is a video production company on the back end there, so they know that they need a very reliable, scalable system. So TrueNAS is the ideal way to build your storage servers for your video systems. It's, you know, absolutely a solid platform to build on. That's why they build on it. I don't think there's anything wrong with Unraid, but when you talk about some of the, you know, large scalability things, yeah. And Linus, I remember all the drama around the Hunak dying because he didn't like FreeNAS years ago. He went with Unraid because there was more tweaking options on Unraid. Those tweaking options led him to almost losing a bunch of data. And that's one of those things, like the IX Systems company, we're a reseller, if you didn't know. With IX Systems and TrueNAS, FreeNAS, and the whole history behind that, they really, really focus heavy on reliability. I'm trying to remember which I can even say. Let's just put it mildly, there are some very, very large organizations in the Fortune 500 list using that as some of their back-end storage. It is amazing how large scale some of the storage is. And, you know, it's not just kind of enterprise level, it's very enterprise level. So yeah, it's one of the things that makes TrueNAS a really solid product choice. Is it's kind of cool that you can use this, you know, storage system that absolutely handles massive amounts of data for very large companies, and it's also something you can just go download and load on a bunch of random hardware and kind of build yourself a system and learn on it and kind of scale up from there. Yeah, I mean, the advantage Unraid has, I think, is the fact that they seem to have a better pass-through system for people who want to virtualize, and they have the Linus touch. When Linus talks about a product and gets a lot of people excited, Linus has over 10 million subscribers on his YouTube channel, a lot of people following him. So that kind of brought a lot of popularity to Unraid. Unraid is also a paid product, and because it's a paid product, that Linus getting excited about it, lots of users using it, a lot of money came in, and they started catering to the audience that Linus has, which made it a better product. I have nothing against Unraid. I think a lot of development time went into it, especially the features they have regarding, like pass-through features. The thing with the team over at TrueNAS, that's not their specialty, is setting up some of the pass-through, and it's BSD based, which creates an entire new problem versus being Linux based when it comes to setting up some of the pass-through options. TrueNAS Scale is going to be solving some of those issues, especially because people want to run Docker so bad. So TrueNAS Scale is the next thing coming out that they're working on that people keep asking me why I don't do videos on, and I'm like, because it's alpha. I don't really do a lot of videos on alpha software that is absolutely filled with bugs, but nonetheless, they are still plugging away at TrueNAS Scale. I did see that TrueNAS Quad9 moved over to Switzerland. That's pretty awesome. I like talking to them. They were great people. Check my channel. I have a really long interview I did with some of the people over at Quad9. Hands down, one of the best VPN services out there. I'm sorry, DNS services out there that cares about your privacy. Didn't mean to say VPN. Let's see. Still running TrueNAS 11. Yeah, I recommend moving all the way to the new version, but whatever you're comfortable with. Oh, are people not backing up? Yes, people do not back up things all the time. Do I do a video on how to set up cache? You probably need more memory than you need cache. The cache is needed in certain circumstances, but for the most part, you usually just need more memory. The more memory you throw in a TrueNAS system, the more it caches. Let me log into this system here. So look at all this cache. I got 54 gigs in cache right now. That's because any unused memory is fair game for the cache to take over. So if you want this to cache even more, it's really simple. You put more RAM. It's got 64 gigs in it now. 128 will have it caching even more. The other problem we run into is unless you're going to start using NVMEs, well, even in that case, it's not going to make a big difference in this system because the disks in this are all SSDs. So that's why you have to then go to NVDIMM caches. But will that really help you is the question. What is the workload you're using, and will a cache help? Most of the time, most of the average users, they're not going to see an advantage from anything more than some memory cache because of the workloads they're running on it. If the workload is not specifically pulling a bunch of repetitive files out, well, read cache is only really good for that. So if you're not doing it, you're not going to get anything. If you're doing a bunch of small writes and you need them to use the slog, which is not a write cache like people think. Slog is a ZIL intent cache, so it's a cache of intended writes and a way they distribute them. And I'm not going to, I have a video on it, and there's a few write-ups. If you type in slog demystified, you'll kind of get an idea of how it works. It works a lot different than people think it does with ZFS. Now, the next one is metadata. Wendell did a good job on this. This is another drive type you can put in there where you put a fast drive to keep indexes of metadata. So let's say you have 2 or 3 million files and you need to kind of plug through the directories. Well, that can take some time. You can build metadata drives to essentially hold on at in a faster location. Can you hear me now? I think that works now. That's funny. How long? I don't know what I last said.
Okay, yeah.
No audio.
It works now. I can hear it on my computer.
What was the last thing I was talking about?
Dude,
I don't
wasn't
remember.
paying attention.
No one pays. No one pays. What was the last thing I was talking about? Ah,
Part of the problem is there's a delay by the time we realize
know.
you're mute.
I realized the problem. The battery went dead in the receiver because it got left on. This one's got a little light now that tells me that the it can't talk to the receiver. So, all right, we know what went wrong. Oh, Lawrence is in a room full of people. Yes. Rate cache. Oh, okay. The jokes roll in. We lost all the metadata. Something about Wendell. All right. ZFS and metadata. So first, ZFS and the caching.
I think it's going to be like, I think it's going to be a little more costly.
Is TrueNAS still more 1 gig optimized than for 10 gig? No. I don't know why you would think that. Some of the TrueNAS systems have 40 gig and faster and 100 gig connections on there. Wendell from Level 1 Techs has a video on metadata caching. And that video, Techs, data ZFS. He explains and breaks it down really well in this video. So it's ZFS metadata, special devices, and you. And sometimes I'm blown away. Wendell is brilliant. I always have a great conversation whenever I've talked to him. And for anyone that didn't notice, this is one of the Wendell shirts that says teaching Sand to think was a mistake. Anyways, this video, I can't believe it only has 12,000 views, and it's from September. But it's a really good video in talking about some of the metadata cache and some of the issues that may come with it. The problem is, and he's got also this video right below that suggested it says, what is a ZFS prime? What is ZFS a primer? This is another one. Watch those two videos to get a deeper understanding of why you may not even need a cache, because for the workloads you're running, it may not even do any good. Mostly, like I said, you're going to just want to add more memory. And unless you have very specific use cases for those other types of drives, yeah. Now, for example, also, if you're already running SSDs for speed, then caching might be helped if you go with like an MV. I think they're called MV-DIMMs. I talked about that when I reviewed the M50 by TrueNAS from IX Systems. And once you go so fast, you have to go that much faster for each drive. So in this system here, my TrueNAS Mini, it's all SSDs, as in the only thing faster would be, even NVMEs aren't going to be substantially faster to make that much better of a cache than the drives that are in here. So it's kind of a race to find something even faster. That's why you just throw a lot of memory in here, and that's what solves any of the caching that needs to go on here. Hopefully that makes sense. Oh yeah, Wendell's a clever chap, for sure. Let's see. How's the audio sound now? I imagine you probably hear some of the boxes running back there. OBS Ninja is really slick. I played a little bit with it. I thought it was neat. I wonder if they're going to offer a self-hosted version. I do like OBS Ninja. Oh yeah, I also am not in this building alone. Someone said there's a lot of people here. Definitely plenty of people here. So... let's see. Audio is better than before. I guess I should look into, should I get a better lapel mic? This lapel mic, maybe not the, I don't know. This is the one that came with these. These are made by a company called Sarmonic. I don't know how good they are. I don't know. I'm not an audio engineer. I kind of buy stuff and play around with it and figure it out. But nonetheless, I'm going to say it because I say it and then it usually takes me another 15, 20 minutes to actually implement it. I'm winding this down, so let's get towards the end of the questions here. Actually, a funny thing is my main mic is that depends. My main mic in my office is a Yeti. My mic here is an Asden. Yeah, I'm not an engineer. Look, I'm a videographer, and that's enough for me. Beyond videographer, it's like, yeah. I thought the laugh sounded pretty good. No one complained so far on the pfSense video. And I don't know. It kind of depends. Like when I do the video on 45 drives, I'll probably use a lav because, I mean, that's the Q series, so it's generally quiet, but it's going to spin up and ramp up, and I'll have the little, device right here so we can talk about the amount of ambient noise that's in the place here. Be able to do stuff like this, and it's relatively quiet here when I'm not talking. Resolution minus latency equals audio quality. Sure, why not? Yeah, you're right. The lav to me doesn't seem to have quite the same dynamic range. I notice it. I actually have a set of studio monitor speakers in my office for when I edit, so I'm more aware of any nuances or changes. I still run Suricata. I don't really have a reason to switch to Snort. I know Suricata. Maybe I'll switch to Snort if something compels me to, but I haven't found a problem that makes me go, oh, I shouldn't use Suricata. So it's a hard choice because you have two products that are very similar that don't offer dramatic or compelling reasons to use one over the other. So you go with the one that you know is usually how that ends up going. What beer is this? Clear beer. I don't usually drink at work, so this is just water. I usually drink tea. I drink coffee and tea and sometimes water. I have acoustic panels on the wall that help deaden the room. Yes, I do. That does help a bit. The problem is the noise now comes from the servers, less my reflected voice. It doesn't have that echoey sound in here, but you have the, well, I guess it's a comforting sound for all of us working in tech of hearing the servers because, boy, have you ever worked in a server room or I even think of here in the back of the office, when you shut everything down, it's really a strange sound to be here and not have that kind of ambient noise created by the servers. It's like, it's really strange. That's the H2O beer. It's new stuff. You can't. Silence is a killer. Well, something's wrong. If everything's quiet, something's really wrong. That's usually how that goes. A couple things I will be doing a short video on. Google Fi. Oh, Google Fi. And Google Fi had, they just made me mad. And I understand now what's wrong. So I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. I'm going to do a video about it because I want to explain what went wrong with Google Fi, why things are still wrong with Google Fi, and I don't know how to get it fixed, but a few other people seem to have had this problem. So I figure if I do the video and enough people recognize they have the problem, hopefully Google will fix it. Essentially, Google doesn't know who I am. They know who I am when I pay the bill, but everything I buy in a Google store, Google can't see. They see when I give them like a part number, they know the person who bought it. But man, Google is really, and it's actually a good security thing here. Google will not tell me who bought the product. Even though I'm telling them I'm the one who bought the product, they're saying, no, you didn't. It's under a different email address. So Google sees me as a different email address than the email address I actually use. And that's where the confusion comes in. So it's really kind of an interesting problem. And so I'm going to be talking about Google Fi because I spent a lot of time trying to social engineer my way through the people. And boy, they don't get you. They won't let you go any further. They basically assumed I was social engineering in them, so I was not able to convince them, despite having receipts, dates, all kinds of information. I was in no way I was able to compel them to let me make modifications to my account because I wasn't who, according to them, wasn't who I said I was. So it actually became an interesting problem to me of what went wrong, and so I'll be doing a video on like what everything that went wrong with it and how that works. So it's going to be kind of interesting for sure. Googling the answer about Google Fi is Inception, for sure. I also laugh. I posted a meme over at Comcast because there's Comcast. Where did that stupid thing go? It's probably let me find it from my profile. So the Comcast incident that was this. I see you've been a loyal customer for 10 years. Literally, I have. I'll just go ahead and increase your bill instead of giving you the same sweet deal we gave the new customers, right? So Comcast removed the ability to change your bill, and I'm on automatic billing. So automatically I got billed at a new rate. And I'm like, well, why did Comcast go up? And I found out that my deal expired. So I'm like, oh, I'll just go renew it. And they removed the ability for businesses to renew their deals. So I called sales, who also wasn't very helpful, and it took them 8 days to get back with me to actually fix my bill. And I'm just like, really? It's gonna take you 8 days to get back with me to, keep me as an existing customer and just update me to a new contract? And they gave me a new contract. I actually pay the same price as I used to pay, and I get faster internet, so it's not like in the end it was bad. And they refunded me the money, so it has a happy ending of the overcharge for being billed too much. They gave me a credit for all that. And the salesperson also got a chuckle out of my meme because she says, what meme did you send? And I explained it and shared, and she thought that was great. So also, by the way, and please be friendly with all the customer service people. I've never understood people who want to start yelling at them. What you do is you make friends with customer service people. This is a social engineering trick. You tell them, look, I know you're working against the same system. They're actually, you got to make the common enemy Comcast and all the problems Comcast has created. So I never blame them for any of these problems. I said, somehow Comcast in their corporate policy has decided to do this. That doesn't make any sense to me. But you as a customer service person, I hope can help me solve this problem. Come at it with that approach. Never yell at your customer service people, so you can, share a meme with them like this. They can laugh with you. You're all on the same team. The goal is to get you sold on a new service and get Comcast up and running. So yeah, I'm this is, I don't know, this doesn't need a video. This is just me tweeting. Somewhere along the lines, so AT&T was tweeting as well, and they commented on some of these too, which I thought was just kind of amusing when you have comments. But hey, whatever, follow me on Twitter. Occasionally I post memes on companies because that's a thing. Oh, let's see. Let's see, broadband. Yeah, there's all kinds of, always work with the customer service people. And, so working with the customer service people was one of the very handy things with Google Fi. What I had actually done talking to them was, what is the process and what stops you from going forward in it? That's what I had asked them. You just kind of get them off script and go, all right, what part of the process can't you go forward on? And that's when they started going, well, your email doesn't match what we got. We understand that you have a receipt. We understand you have an order number and can see things in a Google store, but the order number ties to a different email address. So we walk back and forth of it. And actually how we solved the problem was they could email that email address and I could reply to it. So the chat people couldn't help me, but if the person sent an email to that email address, which does come to me, which is also part of the confusion, I can reply to it. And that's actually how we started working and conversing back and forth, because you have to find out what their rules are, what they can or cannot do. They could not talk to me on the phone and they could not talk to me via chat because the email address doesn't match. They could email the person who does have that receipt. And once you get them to establish an email ticket chain, you can email back and forth with it. And this is part of why I want to make a video on it is, it's about how to game the system so you can eventually get done what you need done. And also it helps you reverse engineer what the problem is so you can help the customer service people who actually want to help you as long as you're not yelling at them. When you yell at them, they play a different game going, put this person on hold, and hopefully they call back and get someone else. That's why you always have to make sure you're very friendly with them. Let's see. Is there a WireGuard tutorial coming soon? Absolutely. Definitely a WireGuard tutorial coming soon. Hopefully there's a few more likes coming soon before we wind this down. A few more likes would be great. I got 173 and we got 417 people on this live stream. So hit like if you'd like to make me do a WireGuard video. which I'll probably do whether you like it or not, which is a horrible incentive. Will I review the... So this came up before. Will I review the Unifi switch aggregation? I think I'm off the cool kids list for Unifi sending me free stuff. And I don't know, I will keep buying their stuff and we'll keep using it, but I don't have a use case right now for the aggregation switch. I do like the fact that it doesn't have fans, so there's at least one thing I like about it. But I probably will just do a video on the Unifi switch lineup. The aggregation switch isn't any different than the XG16 that's behind me right here. But there is a difference. It's less money and doesn't have the RJ45 10 gig ports. It only has SFP. So it is a different switch, but there's not much to review about it because it's not that different of a switch. So I might do a video on, here's the current switch lineup from Unifi and some of the features, but that's it. It does the same things as that switch, it just doesn't have as many ports. So it doesn't feel compelling enough to do that. Linus is the new cool kid. If you didn't know, they're using him in his ads. And he's been talking about some of the Unifi things. I mean, whatever. I'll still buy, I'll still review stuff, but yeah. I'm not that worried about it that they don't send me stuff. A matter of fact, I've really been opting more towards buying things so people don't blame me for being biased on some stuff. Some things we buy, some things we don't. I always disclose it in the video. But like I was just, that Synology that's sitting down here where I did, complained about it not having 10 gig. I'm still critical of the devices. I still try to keep a lot of integrity, even if someone gave me something and even if I get to keep it. No, Linus does not. Linus gets excited about tech stuff and he does not do in-depth tutorials, not the nature of his channel. So nothing wrong with what Linus does, it's different audiences. Matter of fact, you need someone to do some of that because they wouldn't be looking for a more in-depth tutorial from me if it wasn't for the fact that, someone got them excited about some of the product. This is, it's just an ongoing thing. Also, people are at all different skill levels. Some people just want some of the basics. They like high overview. It's just kind of an interesting entertainment to watch some of the technology stuff, but they don't really want to dive deep into it. Nope, I don't review gaming laptops. That's something Linus does do. Linus does review gaming laptops, so definitely that is more catered towards his channel. Yeah, if you want to go more in depth, that's more where I'm at. I dive deeper into things like, covering how you set up a Graylog server is obviously a lot more in depth. I've done MikroTik. I don't really plan to do a whole lot of MikroTik videos. There's not an interest I have in it. I've done enough. Like, I like their switches. I like the Switch OS, but I'm not really, it's not something I really plan to use in depth. And the MikroTik interface is just confusing. And without me using it every day, I don't have much of an incentive to get good at it. Anything that I'm doing a video on, almost anything, but many of the things I do videos on are because I use them all the time. That's why I can articulate very well how they work. I'm not like one of those class instructors that reads from a book and then tells you how to do it, but then you realize when you get in the real world that class instructor wasn't quite as good as you thought because they've never worked in a real world using it. I'm the person that's actually doing this, working in the real world, and then sharing with you how it works, and that's why I have a more in-depth knowledge of that product, because we're actually using it. Because I don't use a lot of MikroTik, it's hard for me to do a good review or tutorial on it because I just don't use it enough. Linus is a tech evangelist. Yeah, he's got a good thing going with what he's doing. If you want to learn Meraki, you'll pay less for the hardware because they have some really good deals on it. You'll spend a lot of time learning it. It's not as intuitive as something like Unifi. So cost is relative to what you think your time is worth. Now, a lot of people in the WISP industry really seem to like the MikroTik because it fits the price budget and they've taken the time to really learn the product. I'm just not the person to teach you about the product. I don't really have the interest in taking the time to do it. I usually use whatever modem was provided me by the ISP, so I don't really have a I don't have an opinion on modems that much. So will we see 10 gig a standard in anytime soon? 10 gig has been around since 2007, I think is when it came out. So it's been around for a long time. It's pretty popular. I mean, it's laying on the table right here. Here's a fiber with SFP and 10 gig cards. I mean, it's become more affordable in the last couple of years than it has been in a long time. It's mostly comes down to use case. It's not that it's not available. It's, do you need it? And that's really what it comes down to. It will become an issue if they get over, what do you call it? Yeah, 2007 feels so recent. It kind of depends on what you need to do. Like at home, I don't have any 10 gig because there's nothing at home that needs 10 gig. I don't have a bunch of servers at home. All my server stuff is here. So I don't care about 10 gig at home. So it's kind of like, if you're building a lab, oh yeah, of course, build a 10 gig. What I really want to see, because right now, like the 25 gig is a little bit pricey. And I'm hoping the price starts coming down on the 25 and the QSFP 40s and everything else. That's when I'll get excited, is when that starts getting a lot cheaper. Well, gigabit seem, yeah, the 100 gig, that's what we really need. Tech Supply Direct, they've been great. We've ordered a lot of stuff from them, and it's always been good. Cheapest NAS with low power consumption, might be the Synology. I think the Synology is pretty good on low power consumption. So are some of the TrueNAS minis are pretty low power consumption too. That's too wild of a question to really drill down. Yeah, a lot of the, let me look because I think I have a transfer going that we can look at. You run into all kinds of issues, and let me look at the reporting on this one here, as I think I'm moving some data. Network. It's funny sometimes when you're looking and you look back at the traffic. There's a lot of data moving here. You'll see when you do the tests. I was laughing because we were doing some transfer tests. When you're doing the transfer test, you'll see these peaks, like using iPerf to see it. But when you actually go to do the data transfer, you'll see the limitation of the hard drive is, these are a bunch of older spinning drives I'm moving some data around to. You'll see the transfer between the hard drives are slower than the transfers of the actual data. So you're not even saturating the 10 gig until you go to a bunch of spinning drives. So you need a pretty fast drive set to take advantage of 10, but then once you do, then you're going, okay, now I need something faster than even the 10. And then, the race continues on and on and on. Matter of fact, this should be, what is this thing running right now? 3%. I'm moving some data, replicating some data between systems. I'm going to be decommissioning a server, so I'm shuffling all the data around to decommission some servers to make all this happen, and I can't just have backups. You got to have backups of backups of backups. This is specifically, these are all my videos. So I'm making an extra copy before we decommission a server. So I know at least there's 3 locations that have it so I can rip out the server. And yes, I know someone's going to say, what about backing up offsite? The problem with backing up offsite is the restore. It's not that you don't do it, but when you have a lot of data that you got to bring back, that has an expense. So I usually go a little bit extra backing it up on site to hopefully avoid the worst case scenario of having to get all that data back. Because I remember a while ago we had a client that ran into that. They didn't really put together a disaster recovery plan. Well, their internal team didn't. And they realized right away there was a big flaw. And the flaw was, we don't need any on-site backup. And when their server crashed, they're like, we'll just pull it from the cloud. And they realized they had so much data in the cloud, it was going to take about 4 or 5 days to get all their data back. And I was like, I don't know. This is why we recommend keeping an on-site backup as well. That way, if something crashes, it's not just pull it from the cloud. It's like, yeah, you have to have and this is a couple of years ago, but especially if you're in a rural area where you have a less amount of bandwidth available to you, now you have a real issue where you've got to get it, and you may have to have drive shipped to you. You may have to go somewhere to download it and bring it back to the office, but that should be part of the planning before you're in emergency mode. This is just part of something I really think is a big, is really important when you think about any disaster recovery plans, is how do you get the data back? Let's see. I don't need the second WAN on the SG2100. That's why I have it at home. I did a review of it already. I don't think there's really any more of a review to do. Wins. All right. Well, I'm going to wind it down here. Is there a few more questions I answer? I'll give you guys a couple more minutes. SolarWinds Speed Vault. Yes. You set up a SolarWinds Speed Vault on there and life is much better. Yes, we're using SolarWinds for backup. Someone usually asks that question. I'll answer it preemptively. SolarWinds backup with a Speed Vault, and the Speed Vault can be anything. It can be a drive attached. It can be a network attached storage on the network. As long as it's something not tied to their current Active Directory system, I think it's a good idea. You usually want it to be like something kind of separate that way if something happens in there, away you go. pfSense in a data center. Yes, pfSense works great in a data center. LastPass. This is the last thing I'll talk about is LastPass. This is a business strategy that just works really well. It makes complete sense to do it. I don't blame LastPass at all. You give away a product for free. You get a big user base. You convert some of that user base with some upsell features to the paid version. Then you look around and go, all right, I have enough here. I have enough users that are paying that I won't make angry, and all the other people are the people who only want free things and they're just costing server time. Buy, so they drop them. They say, you're either going to convert to the paying side and cover these server costs, or you're not going to be on my server and you're going to look for the next person that wants to build business on free. So that's what they did. They got rid of the free tier. They changed up the free tier. Kind of, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it only works on one device or the other, but you have to make a choice, which means there's going to be an exodus, and there'll be another company that's going to welcome all those users, and they're going to welcome them to upsell them to a paid version, and eventually realize that they need to get rid of them, and the cycle will continue. This is how this works in the business working. Marketing 101. Absolutely. It is, everyone wants something for free. I like Bitwarden. I do pay for Bitwarden, so I have no problem, paying for some of this stuff. No, all of my 10G interfaces are not set to MTU 9000. The reason why is because we swap equipment in so much. So I'm not trying to optimize it for absolute, as much speed as possible. It's cool when you do, because there's times when you want to do that, but that's when you have a static system. I say static because we're swapping things all around. And as I look around me, and actually let's pull that other camera angle up that we had. There is so many things getting swapped out. I mean, I could match everything to be that and put MTU 9000 and everything, but I just don't bother with it. So what happens is, pull up that camera. Where's the wrong one? I should probably share what I'm looking at, right? Watch Tom click around like a moron on all the different cameras for some reason. But on this table, there's all kinds of things, as you'll see sitting here. So with all these things sitting here, and this over here, which I'll point at, that's the system. The TrueNAS, the 45 drive system. Once again, it's more 10 gig stuff that we'll be plugging in and setting up. So that's why it's just one more thing for me to have to set. It's faster, yes, but I'm familiar with it. Let's see. Anything else? We already talked about pfSense 2.5. 2.6 is way out in the future, so thank you very much. Hit that like button before you leave. Oh, it says 404. 404, that's how we know it's time to leave. Oh, now it's back up to 421. For a second, it said 404. So hopefully everything's going well. Yes, thank you everyone for joining. Thanks for coming out. I love when interacting with everyone. Quite a few people show up today. I've thought about doing more than one live stream a week. Yeah, I know, I was laughing. As soon as it said 404, I got excited. So, was that the video feed for the G3 Instant? Yes, I am doing a video review on the G3 Instant. We've been playing with it. It seems to work well. I'm actually going to do an updated video on the Unifi NVR system. So, share my thoughts on it. But thank you everyone for coming. Awesome having all of you here. And that's it. I'm out. Now that I have sound again, I don't know. People didn't complain too much. Maybe I'll look in post to see if there's anyone else complaining about these lab mics. But all right, thanks.